Trial, there was a lot of publicity about really, I think they call it like monster teenagers or something like that.
Super predator.
Super predator.
Super predator is what they would call it.
And so one of the things about a one-on-one interview, it's an opportunity to really show other people yourself, your aspects and everything. And so then some of the questions won't really be about anything but yourself, and let's say how you get through the day.
Okay.
What are your hopes and visions? And then also just recommendations. I was really interested in this area of, you started, it's all, I don't know what you had called it, but it's a blog, but it's to give people advice.
That was a thing called Next Day Foundation.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of what it was is, I remember that when Nate and I had been, when we were out and Nate was going through a lot of his issues with his parents, it seemed like there was a very small group of people that you could actually talk to about what was happening. For instance, you either have like a counselor at school possibly, or if you're religious, you would have maybe like a priest or somebody that you could talk to. But outside of that, like when your family structure like Nate's was so dysfunctional, there's very, very little outside resource for you to engage in. And I think that really played a part in why things escalated the way they did, because there was really nobody who understood truly what he was going through. And a lot of times it seems like adults forget what it was like when you were, like when they were a teenager and when they were interacting with their parents. And a lot of times, especially when they're parents themselves, because you automatically take the side of the other parent because you know that you've gone through the same struggles. And I think that you tend to dismiss out of hand that there might be something really and truly wrong, rather than just like, youthful angst. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of what happened really could have been avoided, and maybe even the worst part, mm-hmm. If there would have been another, like a service basically, mm-hmm. of kids that were our age or not too much older that had been through it, that you could just get in contact with any time and say, hey, listen, this is what's going on with me, and it would be totally confidential, and it would be, you can vent on anything that you need to vent on, and then they can give you advice on it. And it was that, and it was also geared at like the suicide thing. I know that there's like mm-hmm. suicide prevention hotlines and stuff like that, but I know that Nate really came pretty close to that when he was out, uh-huh. To the point where prison felt like a relief for him afterwards, which is mm-hmm. unfathomable to me. So, and I think that it's cool that there are probably people out there who could counsel and stuff like that, but it's like you start to get into like a bunker mentality where you think every time you talk to an adult, you get the shine, basically, which mm-hmm. is, even if it's somebody who's 25, you start to feel like when you're 16, mm-hmm. 25 seems like an old dude, mm-hmm. which, now to me seems like a young guy. So I think that if there was something out there where other youths basically that were from the same kind of background mm-hmm. or had experienced the same kind of stuff were able to be like, listen, here's how I got through mm-hmm. it, and so that's why we started the Next Day Foundation.
And how long after you were incarcerated did you start it? Was it?
I want to say probably 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years.
I think I was actually in solitary in the maximum security for about a year, and I was kind of sitting there thinking, like, what do I have to contribute to the world? And I was thinking, well, I have a pretty unique experience here. Yeah. And I have a platform to possibly do something decent with it. So, mm-hmm. I think that there's a movie called American History X, and there's a really good quote in there where when it kind of starts to change for this guy, when one of his mentors basically just says, you know, what have you ever done that's made the world a better place? You know, what you've come this far and in your life, and what have you ever done that's made a difference to anyone? And I mean, that's about how I was feeling at that point, where I was just like, you know, there's people who care about me, and there's probably people who don't care about me, but what have I done really that's made something matter? And especially when you're in prison, there's you really start to feel like almost nothing you do has consequence, like, because you're isolated from the world. It's like I have nothing to contribute almost, and that's very easy to slide down that slope, and it's very easy to forget that just because you're not able to walk somewhere does not mean that you're not able to influence other people.
Wow.
And I think, you know, clearly throughout human history, I think a lot of the big changes or big, you know, movements start with people who are down on their luck or at the bottom, you know, and trying to claw their way back up to the top. And so, you know, very rarely do, like, you know, really cool movements happen from some guy who's got everything that he wants and is, you know, sitting around with idle time on his hands, you know. Most of the time it happens when somebody's up against the wall, and so that was kind of like a